Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Broad Belt Speaks.
Yes.
It is October the 1st, and that means it is Broad Belt Speaks anniversary month. We've been doing this consistently for 1 year, so big ups to us.
Yeah.
Yes.
1 year going on 10.
Yeah, okay. What he said, I think. But today we have our special guest, Nathan Ross Freeman, back in the building. Thank you so much for coming.
Again,
thank you for
in the
inviting
news.
me.
Yes, always.
We're happy to have you here, but we're going to let Broad Belt do his spiel first.
Thank you. Always. We want to first make it known we're in Flux Creative Studio. And then our engineer of the last 2 decades, internationally known, Kurt. So, everyone, we understand that we have greatness in the building.
Yes, we do.
And we're still working on getting him mic'd up. That is coming. I know a lot of people, we have been getting a lot, Kurt, just so you know, we are getting a lot of people saying, why is he not mic'd up? We're about to, it's coming.
It's coming. Oh, you got that right.
It is coming.
Okay, so we're just going to jump on
Let's
in.
jump in.
I wanted to speak with Nathan because of a shooting recently in Winston-Salem at a high school. And we was talking about it, and you told me your organization, Author in Action, was contacted to be a part of, I guess, fixing the issues that we're having in Winston. But I'm going to let you kind of just talk about it.
Well, they had the press conference at Mount Tabor High School. Mount Tabor High School is very mixed, and I would say I don't know the percentage of white to brown and black, but it is. There have been shootings in other schools that are predominantly black, but but it is surmised that because this activity has moved out of the hood.
Yeah.
Then it kind of earned and that's my personal view. It earned a press conference, but
And you feel that if it wasn't at that particular high school, that it wouldn't have had a press conference.
Well, it hadn't been.
Right.
Yes. I mean, right around that time, I think there was a shooting at around Carver. But now all of us, but as a result of the press conference, the city has made a call to action to all art and arts education organizations in the city to come together with a plan. Stop the gun violence. We've had an epidemic over the past 2 years of rising violence. They call it gang violence, but I'm from Philly, I'm from New York, and it's not a gang in the way that gangs are gangs. It's more turf. The violence in Winston-Salem is more turf driven, neighborhood driven, and anyway, in terms of this call to action. It was the Arts Council and other organizations asked Author in Action to come and sit at the table with them and see how we can configure a way to organize nonprofit arts and arts education organizations to work with the city to approach this challenge. And we brainstormed, and some of the things that we understood had to happen. Number one, there's always the elephant in the room that we very seldom speak about. Parents. So we can't have a movement in the city towards developing this movement unless we involve the parents and involve the parents in a way that the parents can help us with their visions in terms of what's going on. That it's a situation where these teens can can behave in a way that there are. I mean, I think last month or something there was something like 25 shootings. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
You know, I'm sure you have the same challenge, some of the same challenges here in Greensboro.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I mean, so
definitely.
it's a triad situation, but it's a southern town city situation too. You know, it's
Well,
and so the first thing I wanted to get straight, because the city says is willing to provide resources for whatever we come up with, whatever the plan is. But the first discussion was about, you know, like someone asked me, well, how much do you think it'll cost? Somebody attached it to, and I said, you tell me. Because we can't have a situation where, hey, we want y'all to help us stop the violence, and here's some money, give us your proposal.
right.
You know, I said, oh, no, it can't happen that way. I said, because like you said, this is a city problem, and the city made the offer. So, like, let's go Jurassic Park. Let's spare no expense, you know, because that's what the situation. So in terms of the financial aspect of creating this movement, it is necessary, number one, that we're not in a situation where programmatically nonprofits have to submit proposals to divvy up the money. It can't be a programmatic approach. It's a city approach.
So you saying we're not submitting a proposal?
But we're not submitting a proposal.
You came to us.
You came to us, and you need us. I mean,
Right.
you came to the right place, okay? Because we're already doing that, you know. And a planning committee. We don't need no planning committee. A planning committee for what? So already you're getting ready to create a situation where we have to vie for resources, and then we have to prove that there is a problem. Well, you know, and that's all, you know, and so that's the first thing we established when we had that initial summit is number one, we have to go into the communities, you know, and for example, we're sitting around this table now and there's not one member of the communities we're talking about. There should be mothers here, fathers here. There'll be some teens here, you know, definitely some pastors,
Right.
you know. I say, you know, my observation, and this is not just here in Winston-Salem, but in terms of the North Carolina culture, they say, well, these kids, and you know, the kids joining gangs and they need some direction. I say, you have to understand, nonprofit corporations, that's a gang. When we have to submit a proposal for some funds, that's a gang. If you say, hey, there's $10,000 in the pot, apply. I got to go up against them. They got to come up against me. And of course, it's cordial on all of that. But the bottom line is if I get the grant, somebody else doesn't.
Right.
The churches,
Go ahead.
they're gangs.
Definitely are.
Because bottom line is you go to this church or you remember this church or you remember that church. And guess what? I bet you if you laid a map over the church and the neighborhoods, you'll find out the groups. So I say maybe we're not talking about gangs like the business gangs, that they're not running drugs. They're running the streets. And most of the violent crimes, they're not violent crimes like gang wars. They're crimes of passion. Over somebody's girlfriend, or somebody who said this, or this family versus that, or I'm not from this neighborhood. I mean, literally, no, I can't. I work with teens, and they tell me, and I can't go over there. I mean, yeah, we can go up here, but like, you know, we got to be careful because they have lines. And the only reason why they can't cross that line is because they don't live there. So what's fueling the turf wars? You know, We get kids. We're official agency of the court. We have kids referred to us all the time. A lot of the kids are preventive. And one of the first things comes out of their mouth. I said, well, what got you in trouble? Fighting? Fighting who? Oh, they keep messing with me at school. And so, like, I got to stand, they keep messing with me. They keep messing with me. So it's like nobody starts the fight. Everybody is defending themselves. The bullying, the cyberbullying, female conflicts.
So at this particular high school, what started the shooting?
Revenge. This boy was running, and he was tired of running, so he decided to take the offensive. Now, that's what he said. That's one of the stories. He was defending himself, and he was tired of being messed with.
So he brought the gun to school and went after the person that...
That's one of the stories. Don't hold me to that. Because it hasn't been in court. Nothing's been really established. But just about, I work with teens. I don't know how many teens we've worked with over the past 20 years. This is our 20th anniversary.
Congratulations.
But a lot of it has to do with trauma. A lot of it has to do with family feuds. A lot of it has to do with girlfriend, boyfriend. A lot of it has to do with bullying. And the thing about it is that the bullies are complaining about being bullied. So when we talk about, and my question would be to all of us from Chicago to Winston-Salem, what's the groundwork for our black on black? What is it about that? What is it? The true definition of a ghetto is basically a certain group of people are confined financially, racially, class, are confined to a certain area, and opportunities conflict with them being able to take advantage of those opportunities to get out. A gated community is just as much as a ghetto as the projects. It's a certain American way of life. Of course, the turf war in gated communities basically can have a lot to do with I didn't get this position, or I did get this position. I'm moving out of there into this community so I can.
Right.
But even that is constructed in such a way that there are turf situations that go on. So not only are we talking about a city challenge, we're talking about an American challenge.
Yeah.
Because America, from the very onslaught of the attack on this continent, was totally based on the gang structure. Immigration. You look at the pecking order of immigration. When the Chinese came over, the Jews came over, the Irish came over, the Italians came over. They had to basically fight their way in the pecking order, and they had to create gangs to do it.
So
the whole history of this country, in terms of its racial and class structure, is predicated on that.
So what do they expect
I said it.
you to do? I'm just like, when you bring it all, break it all the way down, it's like, how do you tackle something of that magnitude?
You have Democrats and you have Republicans. How come there's not a third party? Who's going to break the tie? That's two gangs.
Yeah.
And now they really showing that that's all they are.
Yeah.
It's gangs.
It's been like that.
So how am I going to tell this boy, son, you got to do better, you got to be responsible, love comes in all colors, you got to rise above that, you got to be able to hold your tongue, you got to be able to walk away, you got to do all of that. But we all know the answer to that. Pretty is what pretty does. If I hear somebody in the kitchen sitting around talking, about their job situation and how they were passed over and how this young person came in here with this degree, and now all of a sudden, not only do they promote them beyond past me, but then they gonna make me teach them. I've heard them stories.
Me too.
And I've been witness to those stories. So what we plan to do, I'm sorry, you're trying to get a question in. And it's probably a good time for it.
Well, you was getting ready to say something too.
I was just commenting on what he was saying, so
Okay.
it wasn't a question.
Yeah, my question was, how do you plan to tackle it? It was something that's so...
Number one, we have to create an alliance that is anti-gang structure. That means that all the nonprofit organizations, we need to get together as a community ourselves.
Okay.
Where whatever resources, financial otherwise, are appropriated for us to create this movement has to be something that is non-competitive. Okay? I mean, we literally have to develop an approach that doesn't allow turfdom for us. So, I mean, there's real basic questions like, do we go into all communities at the same time? Because the first thing, if we're going to basically understand now that we have to approach the parents, this almost has to be somewhat parent driven. Because they're parents. Every one of the kids that get shot, every one of the kids that shoot, have parents. Or grandparents, whatever. You know what the irony is, though? The village is there. The village has always been there. A lot of other communities, especially those of individuals who claim to be able to escape these so-called communities, they go into communities where there's no culture. People don't speak. There's no neighbors. There's no neighborhoods. So the foundation is already there. In fact, if you want to talk about the communities involved or basically designated as communities that are more likely to promote this type of activity, they are most fertile to create that village that raises a child. All we have to do is eliminate the competitive aspects and the ghetto aspects. And when I say ghetto, I'm not talking about projects. I'm not talking about the hood. Like I said, a gated community.
It's considered a ghetto.
It's ghetto. That means those individuals, as much as they have the privilege of being in that community, they're locked in.
Right.
As much as they lock other folk out. They have to carry themselves a certain way. They have to do certain things.
To stay in that.
So that's the first thing we have to do. We have to eliminate the conflicts and the things that perpetuate the conflicts. And not with slogans and not with kumbaya, but I'm talking about actual infrastructure. Infrastructure that allows everybody in that community to be able to move around and about without designation.
To go back to you talking about the parents, because I'm one who believes in it starts at home. And so are you looking at educating the parents? And then, because you can do all the work, you can have all the programs, you can have these kids involved in all of these different things, but then they go back home to that environment.
Well, the first thing... Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, because to me, that's where it kind of initiates. It starts there at home. And if there's a lot of disruption and turbulence at home, then that's where that's the majority of their time. So that's what they're soaking up day in, day out. So, and I say that because my brother and I did a program here in Greensboro where we went out to Smith Homes and some other areas. And at first we were directly going after the kids. And then we realized we needed to go after the parents. And we found more we found more in the ability to get our message across and get participation from the children than the parents. The parents were a lot more difficult to engage and participate and come in and have sit downs and meetings and discuss structure, as you were saying, and building that infrastructure they could use, because they were not interested. But they were coming from a battered home as well, and it just kept trickling down. And so just trying to see if that's part of it, if starting there, knowing that you can give them that education, the kids, but then they're going back home to that mother or father or both parents.
Yeah. I can't teach you to be a parent. I always tell the kids the first thing they come in, I say, I can't talk you into loving yourself.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time.
I can't talk you into loving yourself. I said, loving yourself doesn't come about me talking to you and us talking back and forth. Mm-hmm. Loving yourself comes about doing something that is loving for yourself. It could be anything from building a boat, toward getting off that bench on the basketball team. Yeah. So if you, and I'm so glad the way that you posed that question, because actually every group is made up of individuals. Mm-hmm. And usually when we talk about the communities that we're talking about generational. And the grandmother isn't that much older than the mother, ain't that much older than the child. So basically, if you talk about education, first of all, I can't educate you to be a parent. So the first thing you have to do is educate me. Mm-hmm. So that's the first move we have. And we going in, we can't go in like we the missionary, like we had the answer. Mm-hmm. We going in there with our own story. And how I'm going to go in there and talk about, hey, y'all, can we all get along? When I'm in a nonprofit structure that causes me to have to fight every day, directly or indirectly, against another nonprofit to try to get the money. Mm-hmm. I mean, period. I mean, the nonprofit structure is a welfare state.
Yeah.
Never thought about it like that, but you're so correct.
It's a welfare state. Non-profit.
It's right there.
Non-profit. You can make money, but you can't keep it.
Nope.
But at the same token, you got to prove that if we give you money, that you can become sustainable on your own.
Yeah.
Which we ain't gonna let you do. I don't care if you have BB&T on your board. My writing room is called the BB&T room. There's a BB&T plaque there because they were one of the donors that contributed to da-da-da. Mm-hmm. Every one of the rooms I have in my space have a plaque for who gave.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just it.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna lie to you. Sometimes say, see that? That's a BB&T room. I mean, sometimes, I find myself slipping into my colonialized self.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I said it.
Do. Yeah.
But so we're talking about infrastructure. We're talking about not just being equal. We're not talking about equality. We're talking about equity. Mm-hmm. So I go into the community. First thing we need to do is gather all the parents together, and it has to happen all at the same time. And I said that we can't say, well, we're going to go to this community this week, and we're going to go to that community this week, and that community. Because by that time, they didn't talk so much behind your back by the time you get to the next community. Mm-hmm. Especially if you haven't done anything. And especially if you come in and say, like, what you want. No, we have to go in there with one question. What can we do? What can we do to stop the violence? What do you need? And the majority of the parents aren't, how should I say, deviant or negligent. They're not. They're working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
They're just absent.
If you talk about the CNAs for all of the hospital systems, man, they all come from the hood.
Yeah.
People who are, working, I mean, like you say, sometimes it's hard to get parents to basically be able to support you. our biggest adversaries, our biggest supporters. I want you to take my child because he's got talent. They don't think he has talent, but that's the rap they come in. He's got a lot to live for. He's got, and I'm not just saying that because I'm his parent. This boy's smart. But the reason why they haven't been able to educate him is because of the limitations in terms of their ability, not just to basically understand what this boy needs to learn, because they can't sit down and do their homework with you. But a lot of times it's just they don't have the time. It's a catch-22 lifestyle.
Yes.
So I got a question. So would you consider the teachers being involved? Because I feel like the teachers are so much a part of their life for 7 hours a day. So would they be involved with what do you need? You know what I'm saying? When you ask the parents, what do we need to give you? Have y'all ever thought about asking the teachers that as well?
To say I've learned something says three things. Number one, my senses, my 5 senses. The brain receives all the information that it has through the 5 senses. Mm-hmm. So when I teach you something, the first thing I have to be able to do is convey it in such a way that you can absorb it. Mm-hmm. The second thing I have to do is you have to discuss what you've learned. That means you have to categorize it. Okay, now that I taught you that 1 + 1 is 2, what does that mean? Where do I put that? Well, I can count with it and that sort of thing. When I went to high school, I went to one of them Jesuit schools where they always ask you why. 1 + 1 is 2. How much is 1 + 1? 2. Prove it. Well, if I have this one and this one, I get 2 of them. But what is a 1? I got that kind of education. Mm-hmm. And then I had to go home and figure that out. Mm-hmm. My father would make me come home and teach him new math so that he could do my homework with me. Mm-hmm. When I was a child, my parents would read to me until I was able to understand enough. And then what they had me read to them. And I mean, literally tell them stories till they go to sleep. That was the biggest accomplishment in my life, be able to read my father's story and he go to sleep. So let's understand that education does not take place in school. What we need to do with the teachers is let them teach. But right now, they're in the arena with the student. Mm-hmm. They're in the pit. It's an adversarial relationship. The parents, the school system, and all of that, they say, this student needs to be able to do this, and this by the end of the semester. Bye-bye. Parents drop the kids off. When there's a problem with the kid, the parent comes in fuming. Well, what's wrong? What y'all doing? Y'all supposed to be, I dropped it, what y'all here for? Yeah. So what we need to do is not involve the teachers more. What we need to do is take something off the teachers so that they can teach, because they're only dealing with the second aspect of learning. And that is, receiving information, the first and the second, receiving information and assimilate it through discussion, through projects, and homework. But I ain't learned nothing. And I use all them double negatives on purpose. I ain't learned nothing until I've applied it. Because until I applied what I've learned, I can't retain it. Mm-hmm. So teachers are in a situation where, because there's no obligation on the part of the student or the parents or wherever they go after they leave school to come back and show that they've applied what they've learned that day, that they've retained it. Now, we used to do that, especially before the land of integration. We were unfortunately in a situation where our black parents had to make sure that their kids were able not only to learn, but to retain and to apply. And so that's why every church or had some kind of place where the teens would go and they would take the things that they learned, and you had to do your Easter piece. Every year you had to prove what you learned that year. You had to apply it. So to answer your question, we need the teachers to be able to focus on giving information and creating discussion structures so that the student can apply meaning to what they've learned. But that I can't, something is not going to mean something to me until I do something with it. And that's called homework. Homework. So what's happening is you just got information being piled on information being piled on information. So, you know, like at All Three in Action, when we do a creative writing process, we don't give you homework. You're going to do everything here. We're going to take care of information, assimilation, and of course, application is your book. Everything that you're going to write in All Three in Action, you're going to present to the community in some kind of form or fashion.
Right.
So the first thing I say to teens when they come in our 5-week process in summer, I tell them, you're booked.
So that's, I'm sorry, so that's how you grade them, is through when they are doing their presentation at the end.
Let's lose that word. Let's lose that word. That's the problem. Grading.
Yeah.
Grading. Especially when you live in a generation now, the generation of teens we have right now, they don't have a concept of the word future. Because nothing's guaranteed. If you go to college now, it's a lottery as to whether or not you get a job. And if you get a job or career, then you got to figure out that company may not be what it's going to be. In terms of mergers, downsizing, outsourcing, and all of that. See, back in my day, if you went to high school, you were guaranteed that you get a job.
Right.
And more than likely, where you got that job, you could work for the rest of your life.
Retired.
Bethlehem Steel, all that.
Yeah.
You know? We had that. We had the age of certainty was eliminated. You have to understand that my generation after my generation was born into a life where love can kill.
So do you feel like the school system, I don't know if you know anything about the curriculum that they use in the school system, but do you think it's beneficial to the students?
If you apply time. And I don't know how you do that. I don't know what you can do.
Can you elaborate on apply time?
50-minute periods. 50-minute periods. Basically, it's down 45 minutes actually when you give the announcements in the beginning and announcements at the end and all of that. So that's one just mathematical. So I have 50 minutes to introduce information, to discuss information that we had yesterday and collect whatever you learned about that, and for you to basically be able to try to apply.
That's what I'm asking. The information that they're collecting, do you think that is beneficial for them in the future of, you know, being not successful, but just being able to operate and give back to the community? I don't see where the benefit for them to obtain the information that they're getting if it's not going to be applied to life when they graduate.
And the A can't do that for me. And I'm not just talking about remedial teens. I'm talking about advanced placement teens. It doesn't matter. The generation that is now is now. There are no goals.
Right.
Everything is predicated on limitations versus expectations. This is the minimum you have to do in order to get this amount. It's not expectations. Like I told Matsu, I said, reward in All Three in Action. Like if you give us a piece that is very powerful, the reward is great. Give me another one. Because success does not mean less. So if you're in a situation where you're a teacher and a student, and both of you are basically, and you're all, and everything that you accomplish is based on limitations, minimums. At the minimum, you must do this. At the minimum, you must do this. Minimum, you must do this in order for this to happen. Teaching to the test. Then there's no expectations. Because when you deal with expectations, you have to deal with meaning. And so therefore, you have to find a way to take grades out of the system and create goals.
Okay.
If by the end, I mean, when I graduated from college, it wasn't enough that I had all A's. No, I had to write a symposium. When you get a PhD, you ain't proud of how smart you are. They want you to create a paper that is publishable, that adds to the archives, something that somebody has yet to do.
See, I like that concept. So I was saying, I know Author in Action is, going into the community and wanting to sit down with the parents and the student. But then that's why I was asking about with the teachers or the Board of Education on revamping the curriculum in a way that they will have goals. I think our children, that's what they lack. They have no goals. It's just about just completing the class and going on to the next class. I mean, it's just a bunch of information that you're...
Well, they're not retaining nothing.
Right,
it's just, like you said, gaining enough information to take a test, and then that's it. Like you said, they're not truly able to apply it because they only learn it for a short amount of time.
And they don't do anything with it.
Exactly.
And then when they get a grade, that doesn't mean anything because you can't tell me about a future now. In this day and age, the future is now, and with the cell phone, then that is immediate. So what happens is the whole concept of self. If you talk about education, you have to talk about educating the self. I have to mean something to myself in what I do. And that means that as a human being, in terms of the species that I live in, that can only be, all right, son, you 13. Here's a bow. Here's an arrow. Come back when you shot something. That's what I'm talking about.
Put some food on the table.
Put some food on the table. Dude, show what you can do.
I agree.
Just show what you can do.
Yeah.
So basically, I don't care if it's math or social studies.
Yeah.
With the time that they have, because it ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're not going to be able to extend the period. Some schools are doing that now. I remember when I was invited to Cuba to teach screenwriting and playwriting. And they gave me 14 days. And they had 8 students from all over Latin America. No, 12 students from all America. Only 4 of them were from Cuba. And I don't speak Spanish. They gave me an interpreter. But the first thing I asked the director, I said, how is it possible that I'm going to basically be able to take these 12 students and teach them a screenwriting course where they have to write a screenplay in 14 days? And they said, well, you have them all day. You have them from 10 to 5. She says, if you want lunch, we can give you a bus, or if you will pack your lunches and wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. But you have them for 10 to 5 for 14 days because the way that they teach one subject at a time.
Okay.
So I have those students for those 14 days, and then they move into production or photography. With the photographer at that point in time, who was the guest teacher for photography at the International School of TV, was the head photographer for Vogue or somebody. You know what I'm saying? My interpreter used to remind me. He says, your predecessors are Alice Walker and Spike Lee. And they didn't get paid. He used to remind me of that all the time. But I'm talking about educational systems like that, where you are able to focus. Yeah. Now, if you have somebody for 14 days from 10 to 5 and they're dealing with one subject,
that's great.
The only result of that can be genius.
Yeah.
Because the only thing you can do in that time, besides just give them subject matter, is basically get their take on it.
Because now it's a back and forth. That there's a conversation between the two, and that's how you build a relationship. And within that relationship, there's a trust that's built. So as you were saying, they're not adversaries of one another.
They're not.
So
I wasn't. I was with them, man. Yeah. I mean, like they would tell me where we're going. I said, where are we holding class today? They said, we're going to take you to the mountains. So we're up there sitting on the top of a mountain, and I'm teaching them a class. On the last day, we got something special for on the last day. We're going to Havana, and we're all going to basically put on our swim clothes, and we're going to have class in the ocean. I was a teacher. I had to teach. I had to know what I know on another level. because that was too much time to spend with them instructing.
Right.
I had to give them an experience.
That's the
And that's
difference.
what's missing.
There.
I had to give them an experience. I had to teach from myself. And that's what you don't have time to do in school. You only have time to instruct, not teach. And because that's going to probably not change,
Yeah.
then that's where we have to deal and bring back homework. When I was going to school, and it was Catholic school, I didn't believe Catholic schools let you do, but every Friday they sent us home with no homework. And I told the teacher, I said, beg her, I said, please give me some homework for Friday. She said, this is Friday, don't do any homework. So please give me some homework. I said, if you don't give me no homework and I go home with no homework, my father's going to give me homework, and it's a lot more than you give me for homework.
Yeah.
My teacher, my father said, let me come home and talk about, well, my teacher don't like me, or my teacher give me a hard time. And my father said, how many questions did you ask? Are you going to tell me that you're not going to do any work because your teacher is upset with you? Your teacher works for you. I pay, because Catholic school you do, I pay for that teacher to teach you. So don't you come home without a question unanswered.
It's definitely different, because I can say, as I'm sitting there thinking as we're having a discussion, the most impactful learning was when a teacher would, you'll come into class and he'll say, put your books down, let's go outside. And he would teach from that standpoint. But you don't even realize you're learning, because you're more engaged and you're enjoying just the change of scenery in the environment. But every teacher doesn't have that capability.
And guess what? And it's legality too. Insurance and liability keeps the teacher's hands tied, because the principal's hands are tied. 90%, no, I'm not going to throw out a percentage. A great deal of the experience you have in an American classroom is predicated on what you don't do, not what you do. And unfortunately, because we have a so-called behavioral circumstance in our communities, labeled or otherwise, then what happens is that, this child, he's just acting that way because he needs to be challenged. This child, you might want to get him checked out for ADHD.
Yeah.
So, and that's just a reality. And it all comes right back to what it is. No, school did not educate me. My father educated me. My mother took us everywhere, exposed us to everything. She took us to concerts. We know, and she never let us know we were going. I said, where we going, Ma? You'll know when we get there. We might wind up at a concert. My mother took me to my first rock and roll show.
Who was the group?
It was the battle of the bands, man. The vibrations to all of them. She took me to
Yeah.
But at the same token, sometimes she would take us downtown to the Mission. And I find myself barely being able to reach the table serving food. But I had my 8th grade graduation with the Fairfield Inn. That's when the Marriott first started. It was the big deal. I had my 8th grade graduation in Marriott. But then I'd also spend a week with Aunt Maud, who had an outhouse in Willow Grove, and we spend down there and eat. So my mother was exposition. My father typed up all our resumes, all our reports. He went through everything. My father walked my brother into the Naval Academy.
And we just don't have that type of parenting that's going on in these communities.
Schools don't educate you. They inform you, and they provide exercises so that you can exercise what you can form. Parents educate you. So back to your original question. We have to put the parents in the situation where they're capable when the child comes home. Now, it might mean that we have to provide them with a tutor. Okay? A tutor not to fix what they can't learn, but to work with them. So when we talk about the city movement to stop violence, we have to find access to the households where we can provide them as surrogate parents. Call it what you want. We have to be surrogates. We can't come down there, give them pamphlets, give them a couple of exercises, or go down to recreation center and we're going to write today. No. What do you need to keep your son home?
An extra parent.
Come on, we have it's parenting.
Yeah.
It has to become that village that we talk about so much. It has to become that village. We got the same problem in the gated communities. That's what we're talking about. The opium epidemic. That's what we're talking about. The Adderall situation. That's what we're talking about. The suicide.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. That because those kids. Because I remember one rich kid came to us one time. What about us? I live in a one-parent family. You know, my parents are divorced. My mother's not hardly ever home. She's in Japan this month.
Right.
You know, I'm in this big house that y'all think is all this McMansion, man. You know, what am I supposed to do with all that space by myself? A TV in every room. What am I supposed to do? I ain't got no neighbors. I ain't nobody looking out for me.
And that's part of it. Because I remember growing up in our community, and however many blocks, it's almost like everyone knew you. They knew your parents, they knew you, but you knew them as well. So it forced you to act a certain way, but also too, it gave you support. So there's plenty of times where I came home and I lost my key and I'm locked out, and they see me and come over here, you know, and they'll say, "You have any homework? Let me see your book bag." They would go through my stuff.
That's the village.
But it was so different then compared to now. And I know every generation says that about the next generation. But to me, I think it's really is very evident with what you see in young kids today in the education system. Because to me, I'm one who feels like it always starts at home. The education is going to be at home. Kids go to school, and I think you made a good point to it. School just kind of gives you what I always say, like the foundation, and that's it. You have to expand on that at home with your parents and with others, your friends. Like we would do all type of things with what we would learn, but it was an interest that was there too. I know, at least for myself. And we would do things amongst our group, as far as with my friends, to almost show what we knew about something that we learned in school, whether it was a story we read or whether it was a piece of history that we found out about, and then had that discussion. But those things things were not as accessible with the phone now. The distractions were there, but not to the level of distractions they have today.
Yeah.
And I'll be frank here, and I'm gonna say, I said it ahead of time. I hear about the black schools don't have the resources that the white schools do, and all of that sort of thing. You got this.
Yeah.
You got this. And as much as I talk about the inequities that involve this and all that, and how abusive this thing can be, but the bottom line is that Google books on slavery. You know, Google books on dynamic equilibrium. No, we have all the books, we have all the equipment, we have all we need. I can get as many computers as I want. My kids are still going to type all of their pieces. I don't know how to do it. I ain't doing it. But they'll write all their pieces. And I said, they need to be in the drive. Mr. Nathan, they're already in the drive. You know, I'll be asking them, can you show me how to get to the drive?
But it's true. Right? They have everything they need in the palm of their hands.
That's it. But what's missing is the homework.
Okay.
You know, there was a time when black folks were left alone to educate themselves. Not only do we not have the best schools and equipment and all of that kind of stuff. If you want to get your kid to college, I mean, you know, back in the day when my time, when we said somebody was the first in college, that was a movement that got them there. Not to even say that goal should be so highly relished.
Yeah.
But it was
Because they
then.
were family businesses, you know, founded by illiterate parents who insisted that their children be able to read. I was never asked, do you have homework? I was only asked, where's your homework?
Yeah.
That is what I'm talking about. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as switching that psychology. Not, do you have any homework? Where's your homework?
Yeah.
Let me see it. Mom, you ain't even gonna understand it. Teach me.
It's funny because I was saying to my son, where is your homework? Oh, we don't have any day. I'm like, they didn't send you nothing? I said, so today is the day where they changed it. But they didn't send you nothing home, or I did it in school. Okay, well, let me see it. It's like the story would change, but you have to be, and again, I'm not one to tell any parent how to go about with their child, but you have to be active. I always used to tell my friends, you can't be lazy with the child. So you can't just be like, okay, and let it be because you're tired or whatever. Because a child is work. Having a child takes, you can't be tired when you have a child. Like it's constant. Because children test you. It's almost like that, but they should be testing you because they're learning, they're experiencing things. So as they learn and experience things, they bring that to you, and you have to, a lot of times as parents, we are aware, but sometimes we're just like, oh, I'm not dealing with that right now. And it's almost like, okay, well now, then the child goes down a path of thinking they can get away with this, or this is not that important, because in that situation, it was not addressed. And you see it a lot. You see it all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
I feel like this hour went by so fast, but I know it's
right at the time.
Yeah. I'm not done.
Just check.
I know it. I know it.
See, there we go. There.
It's about that time. 1 hour.
There's the classroom here.
It is. And
That's it.
I got more to say.
and this is just with
I ain't gonna retain this.
Yeah, but you only had 2 students. This thing, if you was teaching to 25.
25.
And it's over that quick.
That's it.
Yeah.
And how many of them get lost?
Less than that.
Because I know when I was a trainer, one of the things we did was we sat down with the departments and we discussed how do we find a way to improve our graduation at the end, retaining those trainees when we first hired them instead of losing so many people. And the first thing I remember, the first thing I said was the classes are too big. We're trying to get as many people in to a training classroom with the hopes of getting them onto the floor. So we're hiring 25 people to train, but then we only graduate with 15. And that was usually the case. I said, let's break it down to where we do 10 to 15, and we had a greater chance at getting all of them to where they needed to be to get to the floor. But even once they got to the floor, all we did, and that's why I was talking about that earlier with the foundation, training only gives you the foundation. Now you have to apply everything that you learn once you get to the floor is what we call it. You get to the floor because you've graduated. Now you have to apply all of this. So you have to learn how to troubleshoot. You have to learn how to think outside the box. You have to know that everything you're looking for is not in that document, that procedural document, that SOP, that job aid. It's not always in there. And can you apply what you've been taught to look outside the lines and say, oh, this is happening because of this. If I do this, well, let me try this and see what happens. And that is part of the process.
That's it.
And that doesn't happen in school.
You can graduate from law school, top of your class, but can you pass the bar?
Exactly. And how many people can pass the bar?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can be a doctor and be top of the class in med school, but all right, now you're going to serve an internship for 2 years in the emergency room.
But they just had the movie, what was it? The guy, it was called Dr. Death. That was a true story about a surgeon who, like top of the class, but when it came to actually doing the surgery, that's when everything got twisted all around in his head. He couldn't see what you could read in a book and apply to a test was different when it came to actually applying it, the actual hands-on that you were doing. And he messed up so many people. by doing incorrect surgery. You know, surgeries, for one example, surgeries that should take 45 minutes was taking him 2 hours to do. And people were reluctant to even speak against it because he was the surgeon. You know, so he was the one running that operating room. So it just caused a lot of issues. And then you had people not wanting to admit that they allowed him to do this. And now they're trying to save face and not say, oh, we allowed this. So it was just so much that went into it. It is even today.
So if I'm a young black boy and I say I don't have the bar, I don't have an internship, I don't know what I learned because ain't nobody stood around to make sure that I memorized my tables or read it, you know. So where do I go? I go to the streets.
Yeah.
I go where the only way, see, I'm a human being. I have to have my prowess. I have to have a way to express myself. I have to have a way to share. I have to. And if all you do is leave me, you take away my temporal lobe and my frontal lobe because I don't have choices. So I don't have a way to negotiate. And that's what literacy is, being able to negotiate on a level that you can bring all of this together and have a choice. Only thing I can do is work with my limbic system. So it's fight or flight. That's all you give me. That's all I can do.
That makes sense.
I know that. I can do that.
It's instincts.
I can do that.
Yeah. Well, I am interested in where it's going to take Author in Action. I think y'all are the organization for the job.
I would agree.
Yeah, so I am
especially with what you've done up
happy
to
for
this
you
point.
guys, and I'm just anticipating where this is going to take you. But thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
I want you to think about I am, because at the end we do I am. At the end you can fill that in. But I'm going to let you close.
Thank
Give
you.
all of the social media.
Speaks. Yes. As always, go to YouTube, subscribe, click of a button. It's free, no charge. And again, the benefit is you get all of the notifications of each show as they're uploaded. Also, too, join us on IG at broadbelt.speaks. Our TikTok is broadbeltspeaks, as well as our email. If you want to send in comments, if you want us to talk about a specific topic or subject, you can send those in. Or if you just have a question about something that we spoke about on either today's show or other shows, and that is broadbeltspeaks03@gmail.com.
You ready?
What, with the I am?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I am, what do I do?
Okay, so you say
You
am.
started off.
I started off.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, I know what I want to say.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I am listening.
I am the soil black beneath your feet. Night you call that body heat. Don't you feel me? Come touch me. Feel yourself, because I'm you too. A blade of grass, a stain of mud. I hug the ocean. I'm in your blood. Call my name when you say earth, all wrinkled and gritty like we was at birth. Beautiful green. I am a pastor. I am all these things. Earth, wind, fire, water. I am all these things. Good and bad, here and not. Alpha Omega is my plot. Together, forever's my gang. Eternity's my household. I live, I love, I strive in truth. I am you. You are me. Unity. 3 minus 3. I am. Who said? My God said, I am.
All right. I am.
I was like, oh, what's going to do? That was great.
I am always thankful for when you come on the show. So it's always a learning for me.
Yeah.
So
That's what I was
always
feeling.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm not finished.
He has more, people.
Yes.
He has more.
I thank you. This is always an honor.
And we're bringing you back. So.
This is a safe house for me because I say things that sometimes I have to not watch my words, but I have to be considerate on how I put it. I come here.
I understand.
I can always say, yeah, I said it.
That's what this place is for. Bravo Speaks. Speak your mind.
Well, y'all doing
go.
a good job because the atmosphere just allows it and brings it out of you. And there's not a lot of
It's
So-
definitely a collaboration of all of us here. And that when I say all of us, that's myself, Speaks, Kurt. So it's
So please say, and yes, mic him up.
I know.
Yes.
I know. He has a
Tell him. Say
lot
it
of
again
good
to him.
points.
Come on, sometimes I found myself. Kurt,
What-
what you got to say about that? I see you over there responding,
Yeah.
acting. Yo, what you got? Come on, man.
so,
I have notes to go on.
All right.
All right. Well,
All
thank
right.
you so much for
Yes.
watching another episode of Barbell Speaks. Until next time. Peace.
peace.